Have you ever been at a party and had the sudden realization that all you want to do, more than anything else, is go home? You've talked to everyone there, discussed the recent weather ad nauseum. You laughed, or maybe pretended to laugh, at a joke about a dog. You shook hands with everyone, made a new friend, visited the snack table once or 3 times, sat through your coworker's story again, and all you want to do is go to bed. Sure, you could spend some time and energy looking for that spark of novelty that hit you when you first walked through the door into a room full of strangers. But there's a part of you that understands that you've already turned over every rock at this party, and you know that everything else you experience there tonight is just going to be a variation on familiar themes. But here's the problem. You're stuck. You can't physically leave this party. The other partygoers, they're fine. They can come and go whenever they want, but you can't. What choice do you have then but to stay? So you stand around, doing all the usual things that you do at a party, the things you've already been doing, talking with people, introducing yourself, small talk about the weather. You've been at this party for a really long time by this point. The stories that you're hearing are different, but only in small, insignificant ways. You've heard a variation on that story over there. This time it's a baseball instead of a golf ball. And hey, you've heard that joke before. After a while, boredom sets in. So what would you do? I assume that you wouldn't want to be bored forever just going through the motions. So what lengths would you go to if you knew that you could never leave the party? And worse still, that you would live in that party forever? How long would it take before the endless cocktail party became a prison, and you, its prisoner? This is the story of the horrifying reality of eternity. The scenario of the eternal cocktail party was introduced by moral philosopher Bernard Williams in an essay titled The Macropolis Case: Reflections on the Tedium of Immortality. The title of the essay is inspired by a Czech play written by Kara Čapek, in which an immortal woman struggles to find excitement and meaning after living for over 300 years. Besides being a fate worse than death for introverts, the infinite cocktail party is a great metaphor that brings the enormity of eternity down to a level that we can understand. Bernard Williams likens an eternal life to an eternal party, where the individual is forced to live out the same party for eternity as the world moves on around them. The party may be fun at first, but it soon gives way to endless tedium, just as he argues an endless life would. For much of our history, immortality has been portrayed as the ultimate reward, whether that's the reward for a virtuous life, for transcending a world of suffering, or for managing to pick out the right grail from a collection of fakes with the help of Sean Connery. Across religions, philosophies, and numerous works of fiction, we've explored eternal life as a ward against one of our greatest fears as a species: death. We've woven immortality into our earliest myths, and it has even reappeared in our modern age through dreams of digital consciousness, cryogenic preservation, and genetic modification. Death scares us, and rightfully so. So we tell ourselves stories about a world where we don't die or fade away. Immortality drugs, the bite of a vampire, mind uploading, the elixir of life, the fountain of youth. All of these are remedies for our fear of death, the stories that we can hide behind when looming death becomes too great for our minds. After all, would you be afraid of death if you were certain that you couldn't die? Well, it's an absurd question, obviously not. Everything would change for you, and I mean everything. There would be no concern about deadlines, no midlife crisis, and an infinite time span stretching out before us where we can learn and know the universe and all of its joys, an eternity to exist. It sounds amazing, right? I want you to be a part of this thought experiment. We're all living totally different lives, and what we think about the quality of those lives is just about as subjective as it gets. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to think about your own life. An eternal life for a healthy person with a positive mindset could be an incredible gift. But to a person suffering from chronic, incurable pain, immortality would be a fate worse than death. Nietzsche said it best: eternal life would be a blessing to someone who could consistently affirm their life, while it would be an abject punishment to someone with even the slightest resentment towards their existence. So, I hope it's not a surprise to you when I say that odds are you are probably going to die one day. It's okay, I will too. But how would your life change if one day, out of the blue, you found out you were immortal? That changes everything, and I would bet it wouldn't hit you all at once. You'd probably pour out your morning cereal, put on a pot of coffee, and then it would hit you. You're immortal. Well, odds are pretty good that you work some kind of job in order to provide food, shelter, and water for yourself. You need these things to live, after all, but now you're immortal. You can't die. You are going to live forever. You don't need anything in order to stay alive, and that's huge. So, what would you change in your life? Would you bother going to work, or would you devote your time to following your passions? If you're asking me, I would try to learn as much as I could, and I would know that I wouldn't have to hurry. I could take my time and dedicate myself to slow, meticulous mastery. So how about you? Would you pick up a new skill? Better yet, would you try to make something totally new? A new philosophy, a new invention, a new paradigm that you can carry along with you throughout eternity? Or would you go on a long vacation, maybe starting your trip in Cancun and then ending it on the moon? Again, you don't have to worry about surviving anymore. You have as much time as you could ever need to just take it easy, work through your backlog, get to that book that you keep telling your friends that you're going to read. You can procrastinate guilt-free. You have a lot of time to get things done. I've been trying to imagine what the world would be like if we were all eternal. It's just as easy to imagine a utopian future where we recognize the futility of violence and safeguard a society that respects and protects our dignity as human beings, as it is to imagine a world without a need for ethics or morals, living only to enact our darkest whims on each other. We would need very strict regulations on births. Every new child born is another person bound to eternity who will need a space of their own. Without these regulations, our population would explode overnight. Space exploration would become an existential mandate simply so we could find more places to live for our now immortal population. And what happens to law? A corporal punishment, regardless of your views on the subject, is now impossible. A prison sentence of 25 years without parole is nothing to someone who lives forever. Preventative punishment meted out in order to deter future criminal behavior, would have the potential to become draconian. Punishment would need to be so severe that even a person who couldn't die would fear it enough to be discouraged from breaking the law. Even the smallest crimes would have to be deterred with maximum sentences. So then comes a moral question. Is it morally right to punish someone with an eternity of incarceration, even if it discourages other potential crimes? War would change. Without existential needs, we would have fewer reasons to go to war, but we would still have conflict. The design goals of weaponry and military strategy would shift away from harm and the threat of death towards fear or incapacitation. Knowing our track record, we'd probably develop something that doesn't kill its target outright, but renders it brain dead, technically still alive and therefore not violating immortality. Big Pharma would have to pivot hard or risk irrelevancy. No more expensive treatments for life-threatening diseases. That's a $5.6 trillion global market suddenly facing extinction. Doctors would be reduced to treating discomfort instead of saving lives. Medicine would move from safeguarding life to improving it, or at least giving us the impression that it's improving it. And now that I'm thinking about it, we would have to change the "till death do you part" of the wedding vows. And I suppose with it, love would change. And maybe not for the best. You would get an unlimited amount of time to be with the people that you cherish. But a big part of what makes love so powerful is the knowledge that one day it will end. The fact that we only get so long with the people we care about makes us love more, not less. I see that ending in one of two ways. Either we become much more careful or even unwilling to commit because spending our very, very long lives with the wrong person would be hell, or we dismantle monogamy entirely, loving whoever we love until the spark fades and then we move on to the next. There would be, of course, immediate problems. If everyone is guaranteed to exist forever, I have a hunch that not many people are going to be showing up to work the next day. You'll have daredevils testing the limits of their newfound immortality. And why worry about the consequences of your own actions then? Everyone else is just as immortal as you are. What I can say with confidence is that after the dust settles, the society that emerges would be unrecognizable compared with the one that we live in today. Relationships, occupations, pastimes, laws, all of these would change on such a massive scale that our existing culture would be radically and permanently altered. Now let's assume that you're the only person who woke up immortal. Things would probably start pretty normally for most of us. Maybe you'd tell your closest friends and family, and you would probably get laughed at. Or you might want to keep it a secret. If the wrong people found out that you were deathless, things would take a turn for the worse. But either way, you'll outlive them all. And you're probably thinking of the same thing I am now. Your loved ones, your friends, your family, they are all going to pass away while you remain. And it will always be like that from here on out. Living on while you watch age and sickness and death claim the people close to you, it's horrible. You would still be able to love the people who come into your life as you continue on, but you would also know that every connection you form is going to end the same way. I think at that point it would be easy to let yourself grow numb to loss after a while, but that concept frightens me. Loving people means accepting that one day they will leave your life forever and still allowing yourself to love, even though you know it will end in pain and loss. Loving someone but not feeling the need to mourn when they're gone sounds like a hollow way to love. I don't want to get too dark with this yet, though, so let's take this in a different direction. Same scenario. You are the only immortal. What's your end game with humanity? Odds are it would change over time, sure, but what would you try to do now? If you kept it a secret, you would eventually have to move away from society. People would notice if you looked the same 20 years ago as you do now. Just look at Tom Cruise. I'm on to you, Tom. You would essentially become a hermit, divorced from physical attachment and dedicated to the cultivation of the self. It would be lonely in the extreme, but you would have an eternity to develop yourself in secrecy. Or maybe we go the other direction. You don't make a secret of your immortality. You work out in the open. You outsmart or outlive the people who want to dissect you for your secrets. So what then? Would you become a superhero? You live forever, so you know nothing can kill you. You could become a shepherd for the short-lived humans you live among. Or would you become a tyrant? If you grew numb to, or even distrustful of, human relationships, eventually you could become antagonistic towards humanity, a perfect god-emperor leading an ignorant mass of short-lived organisms, a dark ruler who measures their reign in the lifetimes of the stars. Okay, let's pull back again. We went to a weird place. But that seems to be a theme so far. Eternity, as it happens, is a big, prickly question. It's hard for us to grasp. Everything that we can imagine is bounded. Physical spaces are sectioned by fences, walls, and borders. Here ends there, and there starts here. Time is portioned off with a beginning, a middle, and an end. These boundaries are constructs that we use to make our world easier to manage, but they are a reflection of the nature of the world. Everything has a beginning and an end, even the cosmos. Naturally, we have a hard time conceptualizing forever. You can think and you can think and think yourself hundreds of thousands of years into the future, but eternity is infinite, it's unbounded. It may have a beginning, but it has no end. That's where math falls apart, having to use structured frameworks and even different sizes of infinity in order to adequately deal with an infinite number set. I think Thomas Aquinas said it best. It is impossible for a finite creature to fully comprehend the infinite. Just as we must come to grasp simple things through composites, so we must come to grasp eternity through time. So, go ahead. Give it a try. Try to imagine something that doesn't end. You're probably imagining an object stretching out into the horizon, its trailing end shrinking infinitely into the distance. But that's not seeing something infinite. That's seeing one portion of infinity, the same way that counting to 100 is only a small chunk of an unending set of numbers. I think infinite time is even harder to imagine. You can stretch your mind to flying cars or a post-apocalyptic Earth. But what comes after? And what comes after that? And after that? That's the thing with our imagination, and I think that's what Thomas Aquinas was getting at. We're only able to picture eternity by separating it into chunks. Essentially, we make it digestible by imposing divisions on something that has no end. So imagine you're at the party from the start of the video. You've hit the point of the cocktail party where the realization sets in that you're stuck, and that you are going to be stuck forever. You didn't know it at the time, but you now know that the last time you felt the tingle of novelty was years ago. The creeping enormity of endless time crawls its way into your awareness. You don't see all of eternity, but you know that it will be measured in dull moments just like this. What happens to us when all we have to look forward to is a slow degradation of the self? That way, madness lies. Perhaps you've already had some doubts about immortality from Bernard Williams's example of the forever cocktail party. If not, then I have a concept for you out of psychology. There is a concept in human cognition called the hedonic treadmill. If you don't know what it is, you've probably felt it. You strive and grind for something that you want, and when you finally get it, the elation is incredible. But that feeling didn't last forever, did it? Soon enough, that amazing height became your new baseline. Accomplishment gives us a little pop of dopamine, but dopamine is addictive. We need more and more in order to feel the same thrill, so you work harder and harder for the same reward. Now imagine this hedonic treadmill stretched out infinitely. As time goes on, joy becomes more and more distant, demanding ever more of us as we continue indefinitely. I can see a future where we pick up and abandon passions with dizzying speed. We would only stick with something for as long as it keeps us interested. Then as soon as that spark fades, we drop it for the next thing. We would be chasing novelty then, instead of meaning. We could still feel the satisfaction of having seen a task through to its completion, but without a sense of urgency, without any kind of stakes, we wouldn't feel the same satisfaction from beating the odds. The credit for our accomplishments would go to probability expressed over time instead of anything internal to us. Once our accomplishments become inevitable, the joy of accomplishment is lost. I think death gives something important to us, and I'm not just talking about our own death. As you go through life, it's inevitable that you will experience someone in your life passing away. In each stage of our lives, it affects us differently. It's the first wake-up call to the nature of our existence as children, a harsh lesson about what happens to us all one day. In our teens and into adulthood, death is a tragedy, a reminder that circumstance can strike at any time. The older we get, the closer death gets to us. It reminds us, each time, to seize the moment. Memento mori. Each death is a wake-up call for us to take action in our own lives. But if everyone is immortal, we wouldn't have that wake-up call. We wouldn't grow as a result of our exposure to mortality. It gives us a sense of urgency. These are the stakes that I mentioned. We don't have all the time in the world to do whatever we want. We need to pick and choose what we devote ourselves to, what we build on, and what we have to let go of. This act of choosing creates importance for us. We gave up on this so that we could have that. Without death, we don't have to give up anything. And sure, that is a great opportunity to try a little bit of everything. We lose the anxiety of not knowing whether our efforts are going to pay off in a way that is meaningful to us. But that anxiety is what creates the foundation for triumph. Let's talk about sports. What kind of game is more interesting to watch? A game where your team stomps the other team flat the whole time, or a game where every moment is a battle? Every point is a crescendo where the stress of, oh no, what if we lose, turns into, we're actually going to be able to do this. That feeling is what we would lose if we lived forever. And I think that problem extends to more than just taking the thrill out of accomplishment. I think immortality would poison our sense of self. What makes up our concept of the self? When you describe yourself to someone else, how do you start? Do you start with your job or your interests, maybe your aspirations? I already mentioned how employment wouldn't be nearly as important to someone living an eternal life, and I still think that could be a good thing. I think people can and should look outside of their careers when trying to define who they are. But as for your interests, your aspirations, they would change at a fundamental level if you were going to live forever. You would follow something just until you lost interest. The things that define you, what you enjoy, the standards that you set for yourself and others, and the lines that you won't cross, they would all change over time. You right now and you 1,000 years from now would be fundamentally different people. You wouldn't recognize yourself. Identity would become malleable, but because it's so malleable, it becomes unimportant, an accessory to your being as opposed to a core part of who you are. But all of these problems that I've brought up so far can be solved. Living in the now, affirming your life moment to moment, embracing change, creating your own meaning. All of these skills would make for a fulfilling and an exciting eternity. That is, until all the lights go out. For most of this video, I've been able to rationalize away a lot of the issues that immortality would present us with. We have the tools to deal with these problems as they arise. But over the horizon of time, far outside of our ability to predict or envision, lies a problem so huge, an existential terror of such enormity, that it would turn an eternal life into one of perpetual torment. The universe is gradually whirling its way toward its own inevitable end. Billions or trillions of years from now, the last star will wink out. The night sky will become a lightless void. Matter and energy will scatter to fill the space as best they can, as entropy does its work. The most complex, the most ordered thing in the entire universe, then, will be you. Floating through space with only the occasional speck of matter every 1,000 or so years to keep you company. No light, no sensation except for the cold of the void. Your memories of Earth, of family, of friends, of anything other than dead space are reduced to a point of light in your mind, the gulf between you and that warmth growing further and further with every uncounted eternity. This would be the final fate of the immortal. Even with all of those distant horrors, would you still be tempted by the offer of eternal life? Our lives seem so short, and the sad fact is, we don't have enough time to do all the things that we would want to do. Death still scares me, but knowing how awful an eternal life could be, I can't help but view it as something of a macabre gift. Without death, I think life would be boring. And on a personal level, even with all the advances that we've made in medicine and technology, I don't think we, as a species, are meant to become eternal. Epicurus said death saves us from an eternity of pain and suffering. Arthur Schopenhauer argued that the will, the source of much of our suffering, holds us in its clutches until we can finally shrug off its weight as we pass on. In the Bhagavad Gita, the wise are cautioned not to lament the unavoidable, and that eternal life would be a major spiritual disaster. We've spent a long time as a species pondering this question of death and eternal life, and we don't have any kind of answer that can satisfy us. Well, not yet. But under the yoke of death, we have managed incredible things. Our story is the story of a species that, in spite of our short lifespan, has created incredible things. We've cured diseases that ravaged populations. We've created technology that one day may think for itself. And we've taken the first few tentative steps into a larger cosmos. All of these monuments to our intelligence, our creativity, and our capacity for cooperation. Each of these will outlive any one of us. For all of our finitude, we have raged against the dying of the light. And that makes me proud. If you enjoyed this video and you would like more speculation about the future of our species, or if you're immortal and you'd like a roadmap, you can check out another one of our videos here about the most advanced civilizations in the universe and our potential to become one.